Sure. Hi, and welcome to Open School of Business. Today, I have a pleasure of talking to the founder of a very interesting venture called Social Current. And today, I'm welcoming him to introduce his idea and also ask about how you got started and what do you do now. I know you're a student at George Washington University still, and I'm just really curious to hear all about your venture and also how you're combining that with your full-time student program.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. Hey, everyone. My name's Ashwat, and I'm the founder and CEO of Social Current. We're a DC-based creative agency. We do work with everyone from social impact organizations to nonprofits, purpose-driven startups. We do everything from TikTok to influencer marketing with a focus on really short-form content. We've worked with grassroots organizations to national nonprofits to Y Combinator-backed startups to the first chief HR officer at LinkedIn, and happy to kind of share more about my experiences, my journey, and anything I've learned along the way.
Yes, it's really impressive. I love that because nowadays it's not about the age, it's about how much you know. And could you start off with how you stumbled across this idea and what were your first steps when you decided, okay, this is something that, would be interesting and would be useful for certain organizations?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that. I'm originally from India, and when I was there, I grew up there, and I worked full time at a marketing agency right after I graduated high school. And so when I decided to kind of come to the U.S. In DC, I found myself in a lot of social impact spaces, nonprofit spaces, startup spaces, and I was doing the same thing, which was marketing, communicating with Gen Z more effectively, social media. And so I really saw this need in a lot of social impact organizations around how they need marketing, how they need comm support. And that's where I decided to launch Social Current. And so, since then we've grown to multiple employees, number of clients, done multiple projects. But I think for me, the first thing when I started was trying to find a client, trying to find someone who would pay for this. And so I did a lot of kind of interviews with people, trying to figure out, what their problem was and whether I could solve them. I did a lot of kind of conversations, just talking to a lot of people. And then that's where I decided to kind of get my first client, and decided to, over time scale that way. So yeah, my first step was customer discovery and talking to people.
Yeah, I like that. And one of my favorite books about it is The Mom Test. How to talk to your customer to really find those undercover things that they necessarily not super aware, or they wouldn't tell, in your face. But you can really gain a lot of insight.
100%.
I'm wondering, like, when you first started with your first client, what was your pricing strategy, or let's say business model in the beginning?
Yeah, so our first client, our pricing model is very whatever we can do, honestly, at that point. We still hadn't figured out. And so I just calculated how much time it would take me to do something. And then I put like an hourly rate, which was like, I think, 1 or 2 times minimum wage, because I thought that's what I could charge. And we followed kind of that pricing strategy in the start, especially with that first client. And then over time, we learned how to do pricing better. But we just did, what we thought we could, and then we negotiated down a little bit with that client, because again, it was our first client. And so that was our, goal, is like find out how much time it'll take and make sure that, we charge more than it would cost us to do or provide that service. And so that was really our strategy in the very beginning, and is still plays a major role in our strategy now, is like, can we make sure that we meet our own costs first before thinking about profit?
All right. And you did mention that you increased your team, and you have a leadership board and part-time employees and full-time employees. So how do you calculate your costs nowadays?
Yeah, so
But
with a
obviously you
lot of
have more clients as well. So
Yeah, so right now, we calculate costs through hours, softwares we spend on, legal support, administrative support, things like that. So we do have metrics around how much time it would take us to do certain things because we've done a lot of these things a lot of times. And so we're able to calculate that really quickly. And so now over time, it's become more and more effective, easier for us to calculate, but it's a combination of kind of like hourly cost of employees, admin costs, software, and things of that sort for us. And obviously, our hourly cost of employees is one of the things that's gone up over the last year. So that's a major source of our cost because we're a services business.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about having that first client. You had to take a very personal approach. Is it still the same nowadays when you onboard a new customer?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every customer we work with, we're a partner with them. And so we still very much, use that personal approach, working with them one-on-one to this day. And we'll continue to do that as an agency over time as well. We want to make sure our clients get, the best services. And for us to do that, we need to be there, one-on-one with them. And so that's what we, have done in the past, and that's what we'll do in the future.
Yes. I know that you mentioned you've been through the entrepreneurship program at GW, and folks from there. Did it help to increase your team as well? Did you recruit there, or actually did you recruit elsewhere? Because a lot
Yeah,
of
so
times
we
students are also entrepreneurs, and everyone had their own project.
For sure, that's a good question. So we've done a combination of both. We've been through the startup accelerator, and it's been really good in helping us meet partners, connections, a network. And then we also have, a base of GW students who became our first employees, and then have also transitioned into kind of our leadership team. But on our leadership team, we also have, someone who goes to school in Canada who I grew up with, and we decided to bring on board for operations support. And then we also have people on our team, who we just recruited outside through LinkedIn or through other job applications that, we met were a good fit into our values. And so right now our team, I think there's about 5 or 6 of us at GW. And then the rest are not GW students. Some are even not students. And so we started in DC and at GW, but we've kind of expanded over the country.
Awesome, awesome. That's a really awesome thing to hear, because I think with the pandemic, people are getting together in a more unpredictable ways, and it's just amazing because it just makes the world smaller and easier to navigate.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. So when you started, can you share certain like tools or models that you've used that helped? Like we talked about the mom test and customer discovery. Were there other things that you learned through your program that help you within your journey?
Yeah, so I think with customer discovery, I think it's very important to figure out, who you're talking to and have an open mind. I think having that aspect really was helpful for me because, not looking at a customer discovery call as a sales call is very important as well. Like not looking at it, as a way to get a client. I think in the beginning, I was just trying to understand the customers and understand their pain points because at the end of the day, you're trying to solve a problem and you need to know if you're going to solve that problem with your solution. And so if you don't figure that out, there's very less chances of being successful. And so I think just figuring out, what that solution is to what problem, I think is very important and has been helpful. In terms of like platforms and places, I think LinkedIn was very useful for customer discovery. Conferences were very useful for customer discovery, just finding and meeting businesses, business owners, things of that sort. And then I think kind of another thing for us that has been important when building this has been figuring out kind of our mission and vision and values, especially at the start, and then building around it. So like, whoever you hire has to fit into that kind of those values, and has to be aligned in terms of values. Whoever you work with in terms of clients has to have to be around those values. And so I think that just figuring out what those values are and laying them out has been very helpful for us, at least in building people around it and building, clients around it.
Yes, I think I agree with that because the NGO space is very specific, and even then you have to differentiate different sectors and different industries that they work with and where the funding is coming from. So I agree that if you can start with the niche, then your messaging is so clear. Like Social Current is a great brand because it speaks to the customer. They know it's about the social stuff. There is no like too much of private companies or any of that stuff. So in that sense, it's very good alignment as well being in DC, because I remember even when I started, I just moved to DC to start my program at GW. And at the same time, I was able to get my consulting contract that was from Kazakhstan, where I worked for an NGO, and they had an office here. So that was a very smooth transition. And my first discovery of DC was through the nonprofit world. And then I transitioned into IT project management, and still NGOs, because it's an international development organizations like the World Bank and such. But the major part of this whole infrastructure of being in the middle of all these different organizations and things happening in DC is very easy to transition, and at the same time to specialize, because there's just plenty of different things in DC. There's contracting, government contracting, there's international development, there's real estate, and there's NGOs. So I love that your marketing agency is being able to stand out because of that branding, because obviously there's so many marketing agencies out there. You being from that startup scene, you said that some of your clients were startuppers as well. So if you were to say, like, do you still have startups that are not necessarily social oriented? Can they still be your clients, like smaller companies?
Yeah, so we do some work with smaller startups, but I think one of the things we emphasize with them is bringing in some form of social impact. So whether it's, a subscription service, giving away free subscriptions to a certain demographic, or, underrepresented population, or adding in free versions for students and things like that. And so if we decide to not work with a social impact startup, we try to bring social impact in through our retainer and through the work we do, and running campaigns on social that may be socially relevant. And so we do work with smaller startups, but we make sure that we're bringing kind of that aspect in to the work we do. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Wow. I am really impressed, because not only you're offering a great solution for the organization that are already in that space, but you're also motivating others to contribute. And it's really great. It's like in DC, I work with the Office of Youth Empowerment, and it's a organization that helps foster kids adapt to an adult life. And they have internship programs for their students that they pay for, but you get an intern and you help them develop certain skills, and you teach them certain things that you do in your work. So as a part of my program, I do entrepreneurship classes to starting entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who want to pivot and improve something in their business. So as a part of that program, I also invite the kids from the foster care to learn for free. So it's more of a scholarship-based kind of program, but it's basically how you can have a lot of paid services, but also a fraction of it would go to either underserved population, or like this podcast, for example, is completely for free. And it does give you a glimpse of what's in the course, because we talk about all this concept a lot, with the
Right.
successful entrepreneurs. And it's actually a great validation to hear that, yes, these concepts work. It's really important to talk to your customer ahead of time. It's really
100%.
important to hire people who are aligned to your vision, your culture, values. So I'm really happy to see this, and especially knowing that is a new generation Z that is now crushing it, doing a lot of new enterprises, businesses, and things. So my next question is like, what has shaped your entrepreneurial mindset when you came to DC? Like, what has given you that impulse? Like, I need to start doing this, because you've
Yeah.
been working for nonprofits, and there's definitely a clear path to a nonprofit career.
Yeah, I think, in terms of what has shaped it, I think it's really the need. I think, I've always wanted to, if I've seen a problem, I wanted to come up with a solution. And I think that just translated into entrepreneurship for me. I saw this need for social impact organizations, for nonprofits, and I knew I could help them, but I wanted to build something that, could go beyond myself to help them as well. And so it was really that need that I saw that really shaped my entrepreneurship. It was that problem I saw that really shaped my entrepreneurship journey and continues to shape it every day. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
Awesome. And so you're about to graduate soon, and I'm wondering if you have some, bigger plans or any kind of drastic different plan in terms of, once I achieve this milestone, I will move to the next thing. And how do you see that happening, being already involved with the marketing agency?
Yeah. So really my plan after graduation is to continue building Social Current. But we are considering some kind of new initiatives on our end as a way to grow Social Current. And so, once I do graduate about a year from now, my goal is to hit the ground running, spend time full time on Social Current with my leadership team. And so really having the time to scale up, I think is our focus. And so right now our focus is client retention, building slowly, building over time. But I think when we do graduate, we're going to scale up much faster, and that's our goal. And also incorporate other offerings through software into the work we do. So that's pretty much our goal after we do graduate.
Awesome. Because I think like you're probably thinking about how you can automate some of the things and maybe build the tech around it, and make it more efficient, right?
100%. I think we already automate a lot of the work we do and try to make it more efficient. And so doing more of that, building our own software is kind of down the line when we do graduate and when we have some more time.
Awesome. So do you have programming skills as well
Not
yourself?
currently. I'm actually trying to learn Python right now, but we've got some people on our team who can code. But really, my job is really to validate the market and find paying customers. Because if I
Mm-hmm.
can find paying customers, I can hire someone to do it. And so that's my goal, is really to kind of build that need and see if there's a need for what we do, and
Yeah.
continue to do that before going out and deciding to fundraise and then build software or things like that.
Yeah, awesome. That's a real entrepreneurial spirit when you know how to find the need, and then when the need is there, then you don't even have to sell that much. And then obviously you can always find someone who will find the solution, or you'll find the solution together. So that's really
Exactly.
amazing. I love that. And you mentioned the fundraising. Can you give us your story about how you approached the fundraising and what you've achieved in that space?
Yeah, of course. So right now we're bootstrapped completely. We haven't raised any money. We don't plan on raising any money for Social Current, at least in the next year. But we do have some other initiatives that we might raise money for in the next 6 months, but nothing concrete. I think our approach to fundraising has really been that we don't have a need for it. I think, we would benefit from $100,000 client versus $100,000, just cash, because
Right.
we can do work for the client and then we can go, get 10 more clients like them. And so our goal has really been to get as many clients, as many paying customers versus, you know, raising funds. And I think that's important. But it's also easy for us to do that because we're a services company and we're not building a tech solution yet. And so I think that's our goal has just been to bootstrap and keep 100% of this business as long as we can.
Yeah, I think it's a very good approach, especially since you can really have a lot of influence on your own product or, you know, ventures. So then you don't have to worry about too much about how you're going to negotiate with your investors, how you're going to negotiate with your
Exactly.
partners. So it's really more peaceful way of doing it. I agree with that. Um, and I think you mentioned that you've gotten your team grow over time, and it helped because your clients were growing over time as well. But when you tried, you know, to scale your clients from one to more significant, the ramping up, how did you approach that? How did you solve the problem of um, getting to more clients? Because, you know, at first, a lot of entrepreneurs, what they do is they look through their network and they talk to anyone who would fit that profile. But at some point, the list exhausts itself, and then you have to reach out to somewhere further. So, what was your action when it happened?
Yeah, so for us, a lot of that has been referral based. We got some clients, we served them, and then they referred us to other clients. But we also actively do a lot of outbound. So we do LinkedIn outreach, cold outreach outbound. We do email marketing outbound. We go to workshops, we go to conferences, we go to events. We do speaking opportunities. We do you know, content on LinkedIn. We it's just for us, it's been about, you know, doing a bunch of different things, and then that's all translated into clients. And so, you know, at one point, I think, you know, you have to decide to do outbound, and I think that's been the most effective for us is like doing LinkedIn and doing email and reaching out to companies that we don't know. But you know, selling them on it through email, I think has been good for us at least. And that might be something to consider. And then for direct to consumer companies, that's where things like influencer marketing comes in, paid ads comes in. Using those tactics to reach people, I think, is what I would recommend.
Yeah. And you've been doing some of it for your clients anyways, right? Like influencer marketing and social
Yep, that's
media
what we do for
ads
our clients.
and campaigns. So are there any tips that you would share with someone who is trying digital marketing for the first time when they're doing ads on Instagram and on Facebook? What would you recommend their strategy be when they, you know, start on their own at first?
Yeah, I would recommend. I think influencer marketing is underrated. People think, you know, it's on the rise, but people don't think of it enough because they think it's expensive. But it's not. It's you know, working with micro influencers is very easy and can often be, you know, a better solution than ads because, you know, an influencer has a better tie-in with their audience and they already have an existing audience. And so working with them to, you know, sell their audience or, you know, create a buzz about you is much easier than running, you know, paid ads towards an audience that has no idea what you're doing. But also, you know, the way I've seen things trending is ads are not, you know, working for people anymore. They're not working for brands unless you have a really established brand name. And so influencers kind of give you that credibility. And it's also, you know, you don't have to work with someone with 10 million followers. You could start with 10,000 and they're still an influencer with a good customer base that, you know, might not charge as much. And so that's what I would recommend is looking more into influencer marketing and even doing it yourself, trying to message people, you know, seeing if they would do it, you know, for a small fee, things like that is what I would recommend.
Yeah, I think it's great idea because I like that how you call, I mean, it does sound a bit more complicated campaign to run because it requires time, investment, and coordination. But the KPIs would definitely shoot through the roof because these people already have the credibility, people trust them. and as opposed to a
Exactly.
cold ad where we are so immune to ads these days that
Exactly.
so, but the influencer is almost like their friend on social media. They see them every day, they follow their lives, and hopefully if this the influencer is very transparent with what they actually promote, then
Right.
the trust is built. So
Exactly.
that's another thing where in your company, when you hire influencers, do you have certain like a filter in terms of how you match them? Because people get immune to the influencers as well, saying this and that because it's a paid ad basically, and it's a
For
promo.
sure. Yeah. We look at kind of the type of influencer. We look at what products they've promoted in the past, how many they're doing every week. We look at, their demographics, their engagement rate, what age their audience is in, what location they're at. And then we also look at content. We look at, what content are they creating and do we think, a brand will resonate with that content? For example, we don't want to do, a health or, health oriented brand with someone who's not recommending health. So I think just looking at content is another important thing we use when evaluating influencers, but a lot of it is also just gut feeling. I think we're able to qualitatively kind of analyze influencers. Part of it is kind of data and looking at things. Part of it is just also looking at an influencer trend and seeing if there's a good fit between the influencer, the brand, and the trend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really awesome because you've already done so much homework, and for the clients, it will be much easier to go through this program rather than trying to match the influencer themselves. But we entrepreneurs love bootstrapping, so if anyone is up for it, as well, just share the recipe on how you can do it yourself. Find a micro influencer who's aligned with your product,
Exactly.
and that's it. So it's it's all takes work. So, and I'm just really amazed by how much work you've already put in your venture. And I would like for your enterprise to grow even further and really hit that social impact, expand the humanity to its finest level. And I wish you luck with everything. Thank you so much for your time today, Ashwath.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Cool. Stop.